What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Out of the Park 26, where we are rebuilding the Pittsburgh Pirates. We sit here July 11th, 2027 at the first year player draft. And our Pirates this season are doing better than maybe we anticipated. We're currently 46 and 44. We've really started to slide in June, but we're hanging with the other teams in our division. We're 4 games back of the Cardinals and within striking distance of a wild card spot. So, not as bad as maybe the preseason projections would have led us to believe, but today is going to be an exciting episode. We're going to obviously complete the first year player draft here and then move through all of the all-star break details that emerge next week, and then look ahead to the trade deadline as well and kind of figure out if there are any moves we want to make there to improve our roster for the back half. But before we get started, I, as always, just wanted to say thanks for watching these videos. I really appreciate all the support we've gotten on the series up until this point. And hopefully you guys are, excited to see how we finish the year out. So any likes or comments would be, appreciated on the video, but of course, no pressure. I'm just happy to see you continue to return to these videos. But let's get into it. We've covered the available prospects at length here. We're picking 1-1, so we have the full board available to us, and we could go developmental high schooler, but if you've been watching the last couple of episodes, it should be no secret that I am madly in love with Dan Beebe. So he's going to be the pick, you guys. The personality is an 80 grade personality, and everything else just looks incredible. So we're not going to mess around here. We're going to take Dan Beebe first overall with our draft here. And then really, the interesting parts of this video are going to be what comes after. So he's demanding slightly over. That's fine. We have $16 million allocated to the draft, so it's possible that we could even go slightly over in our second and third round picks as well. So we're going to get the draft underway here with Dan Beebe, viewed in the draft pipeline as the 10th overall player, but I don't view that to be accurate. We're going to take the Oklahoma righty first overall here, and we're going to meet his demand of $9.5 million. And wow, another first overall pick joins the Pirates organization. A huge day for all of Pittsburgh. Let's go ahead and, simulate through the first couple picks here just to kind of see who goes, just because I'm curious, and then we can go ahead to our second round pick and see. But next up is Philly, who they jumped up quite a bit. They go with a pitcher, Jake Botnick, who is a sidearm righty, so that's a big red flag. With the personality, you don't love it. But maybe they know something we don't. It looks like they went really under slot for their pick. And then Houston goes Kelly Wiley. I had looked at him, and I think, for a high school outfielder, I love the profile, assuming the power comes along there. Still a lot of 80 grade guys on the board, though. This is one of the first years where all of the prospects are computer generated, and I think they're a little more generous with their talent distribution than the real life players are. But the Tigers at 4 go Chris Miller, who is maybe the best high school prospect in the class, I think. Just utility, great speed, generational gap power, and eye. He ought to be really good for them. And then Arizona goes Mark Petit, who also brings the pop as a high school shortstop with a great personality. So let's leave it there. Let's go ahead and jump ahead. It's one thing of note here. Washington has 2 picks in the first round. They failed to sign Jacob Lombard last season. So Jacob Lombard ended up going to college, I guess, and they were rewarded with a comp pick. So they couldn't agree to terms with him. They have 2 first-round picks here, but we're going to go forward. We pick 8th in the second round here, so it's going to be a bit for us, but let's take a quick look at who is going to be available to us. And, okay, we still have a good amount of talent here, and we'll have to look at Chris Norton. He certainly looks interesting as far as players that the pipeline is valuing. There's one JUCO guy and then a couple of high schoolers still available. And there's Chris Norton, who we value highly, as well as a couple other guys here. I'm gonna try to limit the just staring at attributes that I do on camera for you guys, but I did want to see. There were a couple of pitchers I was interested in seeing where they landed. There were also college arms. So Dorian Wood went 10th to the Angels. I viewed him pretty highly. And the other guy was from Long Beach, Jonathan Hines, goes 16th to the Reds. So he'll be in our division. That's interesting. I don't really, I'm not familiar with the names of all of these players, obviously. So there's no one that I really want to, pick out as, oh, I can't believe we missed this guy, that sort of thing. But let's look at like all the available players to us here. They're all just like demanding slot as well. So like, I don't know if that's different or what's going on, but there are a couple 70 grade guys here, and we have high scouting accuracy on 2 of them. So John Gary, they're all high schoolers as well. If we go to college players, there are definitely some 60 grade guys, which I can take a look at off camera. But let's look at these high schoolers. John Gary. Okay, so definitely contact first. And I think he's being rewarded for being a pitcher as well, a two-way player. So if you factor out all the pitching stuff, I don't love the bat. Like the lack of power in general is just a little bit of a turnoff with him, even though like 80 grade potential. Not that he like couldn't pitch, like it's fine, but I just don't think it's elite enough to, want to do that. Stuart Flynn is a switch hitting third baseman with a, less desirable personality, but good eye, good power. He's definitely a strikeout risk, and we only have medium accuracy on him, or average rather. Phil Goodall, high school, tremendous fielder, good personality. Not the best base runner given his speed, but you think the gap power is definitely going to be there. Maybe the power will as well. I'm sort of interested in him just because the defense looks awesome. And then Ryan Malaguti looks like he's like a low 90s sort of control guy, but 4-pitch mix. Not blown away with him. I think I'm looking at Chris Norton down here, but we'll get to him in a second. Okay, wow, Andy Marias is definitely going to strike out a ton, 30 avoid K rate, but the power and eye could be, prodigious, I suppose. But I don't think I like him here. Let's look at Chris Norton, who, okay. But he's a sidearmer, no. But you love that personality, and the movement's possibly going to be there. 5-pitch mix. Let's look at his ratings relative to... Oh, guys, why does he have to be a side armor? 35 control and 35 stuff is just brutal against lefties. So while I like Chris Norton in theory, under 18, think he can get up to like mid 90s to above, like we'll have to just consider it. Other like highly guys who are already, I guess, highly rated that are near like good potential. These are relievers, but Mike Seward. Okay, he brings a little more gas and the personality is better. I actually almost favor this. 4 pitches. He's definitely older than the other guy we just looked at, and still super developmental. But let me go off camera here. I'm gonna look at the college players as well, and try to come back with a smart decision for us. Mike Jackowitz. Not the best personality, but he's pretty far along, but only a fair competition level. Yeah, let me circle back with you guys. I'm gonna pause the recording here, but we have 1.8 mil to work with. Let me try to find a good option for us here in the second round. Okay, so I've sort of canvassed everything. Both college and high school players. There's a lot we could do as far as like developmental. I think I'm leaning into the prep like high school route just because the college players are fine. I'm not like blown away by any of them. It's mostly pitching, and we already took one college pitcher, so I don't necessarily feel like we need to double up. And we went pitching heavy in the early rounds last year. We got Tyler August and Rodriguez as well, like two pitchers in our first 4 picks last year. So when I'm looking at the college players this year, the only one that's sort of interesting to me right now is this Trevor Wonderly guy. But again, he's sort of like we took Camden Coziel last year as well, and he's very similar to that. Not that, it would be a problem bringing on another, college-ready, like, middle infielder, but I think I want to aim a little higher, so I'm looking at the high school players. And the one I've sort of landed on here is Phil Goodall, the outfielder. He's 6'4". We think the defense can be tremendous. He's got a good personality, and I'm just, liking everything I see here. So average competition level. I think we could use some more like younger outfielders in our system. So we're going to make him our pick here in the second round, and he's demanding slightly over as well. So, all right, sure, buddy. I don't know what's going on with the demands this year. It seems a little bit weird compared to previous previous drafts. So let's go ahead and take Phil Goodall. We're going to meet his demand of 2.4. So there we go. 2 picks down. And even this is like, I think this is just bugged. Like it must be, you guys, if we're like these numbers don't align with what we've selected at all. So anyway, we ended up passing on Chris Norton. I just was not comfortable taking the sidearm profile, but if he's around in the next round, obviously we'll heavily consider him. But let's go ahead and keep this moving to our next pick. And okay, well, one of the high school arms is still available, Ryan Malaguti, who we view pretty highly. We think he can get up to mid-90s with the 4-pitch mix. And he's a lefty, I just realized. So that's pretty interesting. He's got fastball, curve, changeup, sinker. So we'll have to consider him for sure. Let's look at the overall sortable list. So we're definitely down into the 60 grade players now at this point. Just curious what his demand would be. So it's slightly over slot again. And this is like the math is not aligning here. I need to like keep track of what we're offering our players. So we went 9.5, and what did we offer Goodall? Was it 2.1? Let me just pull out the calculator here. So that brings us up to 11.6. We still have quite a bit of room then in our budget. 4.5 million, give or take, to bring guys on. So it's not unreasonable to go 2 mil here for Malaguti if that's how we decide to play it. But let me take a look. I'm going to dive in a little deeper, and I'll come back to you when I make a decision. Okay, I've taken a look around, and there are a couple of intriguing options for us on the batting side. Guys I'm looking at across both high school and college, Bill Schaefer is interesting to me. We love the personality. I think the BABIP and contact is nice, but just like kind of the idea of like a contact first third baseman, I'm not sure that's really the value right now. And similar story with Joey Giles here. He's a college first baseman. I've mentioned our lack of like first base prospect depth like a couple of times now, and he could be interesting, but I don't think I'm going to take him here. But should he linger on the board, maybe in a round or two, we look at him. And then I also like this one outfielder, Matt Hucks, who, we think the contact will really be there, and we like the defense for sure. So kind of hoping he sticks around as well. There are a couple catchers here too, and I would love to bring on like a nice high school catcher in this draft, but I kind of like these guys down the board a bit more, Sean Taylor and Paul Waldron. So I think we're going to wait on catcher. But I've looked all the way around. I think the opportunity to grab a high school lefty pitcher here, Ryan Malaguti, is too enticing to pass up. So he's a bit risky, of course, like as is the case with any high school arm. But he's committed to Nebraska, good school, solid competition level. I think we're going to take a chance here on the high school lefty, and with the bonus demand of 1.7, I did total up. We offered Goodall 2.4, so we're going over slot with every pick so far. So this brings us up to 13.6. So we just have a little bit of wiggle room left before we get to our ceiling of 16 mil. But let's go ahead and bring on the high school pitcher Malaguti. Welcome to Pittsburgh. Awesome. So all, college arm off the rip, and then two more developmental guys. But I'm happy with how things are going so far. Let's go and see who's on the board for us in round 4. Awesome. So it looks like, this guy I've looked at. I just don't know that I love the personality and defense. And plus, I think I would rather look for a high school catcher if we were going to take a catcher. As far as like all players available in the pool, there's still a good amount of 60 grade guys here. And let's see. Okay, the first baseman, Giles, who we looked at, is still there, and so is the outfielder, Matt Hucks. Are the catchers still available? Yes, Sean Taylor. I'll go ahead and show you what they look like. I mean, they're definitely further away with all these attributes only being in the 20s, but I just like the defense and the personalities of them. Sean Taylor and Paul Waldron here. Waldron is actually further along, so it may make sense to go for him first, although he is a ground ball hitter. Don't love that, but and he's only committed to a JUCO school, so that's maybe a little bit of a red flag. I don't know. But he is more well-rounded. But Sean Taylor, if he plays anything like the University of Miami safety, we've got a steal if we get Sean Taylor. Let me kind of digest all of this info. We may go back to batters and go, I really did like the outfielder Hucks here. But let me think it over. I'll come back to you once we make a decision and let you know what we're going to do. All right, y'all. Bit of a surprise here, but I kind of looked at the board and I didn't see any bats that I was madly in love with. I considered a couple of the outfielders at the high school level. None of the college guys were really speaking to me. Matt Hucks that we've looked at before, I think he could be a nice defender, obviously, and like contact first outfielder, but I'm not in love. And then Mark Miller is also maybe interesting as like a corner first base kind of lefty hitter. But the guy we ended up landing on, and this is partially informed by the draft pipeline, and like this is just sort of like the consensus scouting of all these guys, but like I scrolled down and saw this guy Brian Hiles available there, and he's really kind of far and above, like away above most of the other guys, and I'm not in love with Juan Zavala just because of this personality. So when I started to look a little bit closer at him, he's a high school righty, and I'm actually pretty intrigued. We think he can throw mid-90s, good stamina, good at holding runners. And he's a 4-pitch mix guy, and all of his pitches are pretty far along. So I don't mind double dipping on the high school arm here. I think we could honestly use a couple of our own guys at rookie ball throwing. We've just sort of patched holes there with free agents that we've found on the market. None of them particularly good, but he's going to want overslot again. So we're up to once we draft him here, we're just going to meet his demand of 1.2. We're now up to 14.8 if my math is correct on our total offers. So we still have like 1.2 to go for the rest of the draft. We'll see if we want to make any offers there, but I'm happy to get two really high upside high school arms with our third and fourth round picks. So let's go ahead and keep it rolling here and see who we have available. So okay, I think this may be where I dip into the catching market just to make sure we get our guy. As far as batters go, it looks like Sean Taylor is still here, who I think I favor the most of, both available catchers. Although I wouldn't mind, honestly, double dipping with Waldron and Taylor as well. Let's just compare their end potentials. So, actually, Waldron, kind of destroys him across most categories apart from power. So maybe we do go Waldron. And then defensively, I think they're pretty similar. Although, Waldron even has a better arm. So that's interesting. We'll have to think about Waldron. But as far as other batters available here, there are a couple 65 grade guys, but none of them particularly highly rated right now. But our outfielders are still here, Hux and Mura. We haven't done anything on the dirt, so maybe we could look at infielders as well. So Daniel Brown. He looks pretty good actually, so we'll have to consider him as just a contact first kind of guy. Not much speed on the base paths, which you would hope for speed with that profile. But Walt Lorimer is here as well, and he definitely he's the utility guy, but his choices are questionable in his personality teaser with the poor competition level, although he is durable and a bit younger than the other guy, but not quite the same defender that we saw. If we go to college players, okay, there are just a couple 50 grade guys here. But we still have the first baseman, Joey Giles, who maybe we should consider more heavily bringing somebody like this on board. But I don't know. You guys. There's another first baseman here, Tim Simons, it looks like. Although he's a two-way player. Interesting. And then the outfielder, John Doherty, who looks solid, but it's just the poor competition level that's sort of, always the same with these Canadian guys. They're a little scary to draft. But let me kind of digest all this information and come back to you with who we're going to take. I do like Josh Linnick as well if we wanted to go back to the high school pitching well. Let me figure this out, and then we'll cover the next pick on camera, and then from there I'll just do the remainder of the draft off camera, and we can kind of circle back once everything is over. But give me a sec to figure this 5th round pick out. Okay, you can go ahead and see maybe no surprise, but we're gonna go with the catcher Paul Waldron here. I think it's too risky that he won't make it back to us in the 6th round. I was looking at the pipeline list, and there are a couple guys here, and he's one of them that's sort of creeping into the back. That's Walt Lorimer, but he's sort of creeping in here at 108. Paul Waldron, there's only a dozen guys ahead of him on the pipeline list. I wasn't confident he's going to be there when we circle back around. So I think we're getting a really high upside catcher here. Switch hitter, still not even 18, and projects as a plus defender with leadership. The only hole we would poke in his game is ground ball hitting, but hopefully with our mechanics coaching, we can get the lift on the ball. That's something that can change over time, just depending on their tendencies as a player. So I'm willing to take the risk here on Paul Waldron just being our projecty catcher of the future, and he only went 600K, so that's good. It'll bring us up to 15.4, and we'll still have like 600K of available money if we want to, overpay someone in these next couple of rounds. But he's going to be the final pick we make on camera here. We're going to meet his demand of 600K, and now we have found our catcher. But I'll finish this out on my own time off camera, and then when we get back, we'll sort of review how we did, and we can push guys to certain levels. If we end up taking some college guys, we can get them all set in A-ball, and then we can turn our attention to the back half of the season where, we need to get things back on track here. July has been brutal for our team so far, so hopefully we can turn it around. Stay tuned for the full draft review. I'll be back for you in just a second, but for me, it's going to take quite a long time. Okay, you guys, we have finally wrapped up the draft here, and I just wanted to say, up top, I feel like this is so much stronger now that we're into the generated draft classes than what we saw in 2026 or even 2025. But last we left off, we took the catcher Paul Waldron out of high school, and we really loaded up on primarily high school players here. Next we went Daniel Brown, and I think all of them are good. We can even touch on some of the late round draft picks because they have potential. But in the 6th round, we went with Daniel Brown, who, straight out of high school, about to be 19. He's really a contact first kind of guy, but I think that, hopefully he can learn a few more spots around the infield, and he's so young that hopefully he can come along for us. I was searching for kind of infield depth at the lower levels, and then after him in the 7th, we ended up, Joey Giles, we looked at earlier in the draft as a first base, potential selection, but he sort of lingered on the board a bit longer than I was expecting, and I felt like the opportunity to get a 60 grade college hitter in the 7th round was too good to pass up. So even though the personality isn't great, you like that he's not going to strike out a ton, and the power could be above average. So felt good about taking him out of an SEC school against a great competition level. He's going to be one of the guys we push to A-ball immediately because, as you can see, he's pretty serviceable there. He's not going to take a ton of walks, but he should be able to get the bat on the ball and make some things happen on the back half. So we got him in the 7th. Then we went back to the high school pitching well with Harry Hallwell, who's another high school lefty, but he's from Canada, so he kind of sat on the board. But I just really loved the stuff potential here. And the good stamina, good at holding runners, good velo, funky release over the top. So, we'll see if he ever figures it out, but I just like the idea of adding another 55 grade lefty to the system. And then we continued our string of high school picks. We went John Fairchild here, who has a big arm. We'll put him in a corner for sure. And as a lefty hitter at only 17, I felt good that he would be able to be successful with us, and we still view him as a 60 grade potential, but of course only average scouting accuracy on these guys near the back half, so it's likely these come down slightly, but felt like he was a good option for us to beef up our rookie league outfielders. And then David Garcia here as well is our first reliever choice, and you can just see the stuff and control potential are outrageous here. The personality as well is 80 grade, good velo, good at holding runners, decent stamina. This guy looks pretty insane. The homers are going to be an issue, but at just 18, he's got plenty of runway to figure all of that stuff out. So kind of a long-term play with him, but I felt like he's the rare kind of, just outstanding high school reliever, and I wanted to, snatch him up in the 10th round. 11th round, Seth Weinberger. He was committed to Vandy, and he's durable, and I liked both of those things. So definitely contact first. Not going to be a huge slugging threat, but as far as outfield depth at the minors, I felt like he wasn't a bad option. 55 grade still. And then we went Charlie Bates here, who was one of the few college guys we took, but I wanted to get more on the dirt, on the infield, so I really liked the defensive profile here and the personality traits. While he's never gonna, it's most likely he never plays at the majors. Let's be honest, but who knows? I think he's just a good guy to have in our minor league depth. But we kept drafting guys who were like 45, 50 grade potential. We got this other catcher, Aaron Kaiser, who just looks very well rounded and has a good personality, decent on the defense. It's not quite as good as I would like, but at under 19, you hope that he can contribute next year in the minors. And then we'll touch on this guy as well, Matt Champion. Shout out to any Brockhampton listeners out there, but definitely a control first. I love that the BABIP is already at 55, and while he is 22 out of the University of Oregon, he's not quite ready for A-ball yet, but I sort of felt like, he was the best available on the board at the time, so I don't mind taking him. And then, we took some more high school outfielders and high school infielders here, another reliever late, but we'll touch on this guy as well. In the very final rounds, we sent a Hail Mary on this Canadian starting pitcher, just 18 years old, so the movement looks like it might be there. I don't know that he'll ever factor, but 50 grade, you can't complain about that. And, same for this guy too. I think he looks decent, like the bat, everything profiles to be above average, right? Except for gap power, and we like the personality, so maybe Kale Zimmerman turns into something as well. But on the whole, I think it was a very deep draft class, and, not many guys, like I said, are going to be pushed to A-ball this year. Just the first baseman, Joey Giles, is really the only one. And, of course, Dan Beebe once he signs. We're looking to sign our first couple of picks here, but with the majority of them being high schoolers, they'll likely just sit at rookie league for the remainder of the year. But I'm really excited we got Phil Goodall, too, because, this defense is going to be insane with the range and the power as well. I'm really hyped to get him. Anyway, something else I noticed too, we were talking about the money that we are spending on all these guys, and you guys saw me click meet demand on all of these. I think this is some kind of bug. So if you've seen this in your playthroughs, let me know what's going on here. The status, the pending offers here do not align whatsoever with what we saw at the draft screen. So I had us calculated at just under 16 mil on all of our offers. We were at 15.4, and this has us at under 6 million total. So I don't really know what to think. I guess we'll see on the final finances how it shakes out, but this feels like a bug to me, and I'm a little bummed out because I feel like it's giving us an unfair advantage. But in any case, once Dan Beebe signs, I think we're going to push him straight to high A because, God, he looks so good. Maybe A-ball to start. I don't know. We'll see. I want to see those secondary pitches come along a little bit more, and in either case, I think he's going to perform awesome, and I can't wait to get him in the system. But now we can turn our attention to the Major League team. Obviously, we've been sliding in the month of July so far. I'm going to go ahead and run us through this next week up until the All-Star game, and we can kind of reevaluate there. I'll do some work off camera to make sure the lineups make sense based on who's hitting and who's not. And then sort of in the background as well, I'm going to look at the trade block and try to find some interesting relievers that we can bring on, potentially a lefty specialist like I mentioned. We're really kind of seeking that, that's sort of our missing piece in the bullpen. And I don't know that we're going to be looking to buy any bats just because, I'm not sure what the corresponding move would be. I guess you could maybe argue Leover Peguero could be sent down, but at the same time, I'm thinking in AAA we have Wyatt Sanford, who could be our spark plug down the stretch. So if he gets a little bit more development and turns into a 45 grade, I think we could look to see if he can give us a lift down the stretch. But I'll take a look in general at both bats and pitching and kind of see what might be out there. I think I'm definitely looking to buy, and I would be in favor of moving off of one of our prospects at the minor league level to bring in somebody who's going to be a quality arm for us to help us push through here. But let me get this rolling. Next time I check in, like I said, will be the All-Star break, and we can kind of, strategize there. But hopefully you're happy with the draft. I think we did really well, and like I said, it's a super deep class, so I'm pretty psyched. Anyway, I'll be right back in a sec. All right, y'all, we are past the All-Star game, sitting here on the 21st, and quite a bit has happened that I need to catch you all up on. As you can see, we're still not doing the best this month, but the middle has definitely gone better than the opening 2 weeks, where we took the final game against the Athletics, and then 2 of 3 against Kansas City on the road, and then got the final game to prevent being swept at Minnesota. But something that, well, before we dive into the news, I mean, we're still 50-47, so second in the division, and even with our tough month here, we're not totally out of it. We're still 5 back of St. Louis for the division lead, but in terms of wild card, like, we're right there. We currently have one, so we're, I think in a position to be buyers at this deadline, which is exciting. I love being a buyer. So I've already made a move, and I have another one in mind I want to float by you guys, but I don't think we're going to end up simming much further. I'm just going to kind of review kind of everything we've done. So the first notable thing that happened was O'Neal Cruz went down with an injury. I think this was like on draft day, or, shortly after, on the 13th. He had a strained back that was going to put him out 2 weeks, so we put him on the 10-day, and he's still got 3 days of recovery time left, but this marks like his second strained back this year, so I'm hoping to avoid him coming back as fragile, given he's had like such an amazing season for us. 3.5 WAR at the midway point, 921 OPS. Like, we really need him back and healthy for if we're gonna make a push to the playoffs. So that was a major factor. I also looked up our friend. I was taking a harder look at our friend Leo Bernal, and you guys, it was a similar situation to Juan Brito last year, where like through 39 games he was a negative 0.5 WAR player, and while I would have loved to have kept him like for the future of the franchise, like next year potentially having him be a platoon catcher, I just couldn't rationalize keeping him when he was being so bad for us. I just think we needed to move on if we were going to compete this year, and we couldn't carry the dead weight on the roster. So what was the corresponding move? Well, we called up our boy Omar Alfonso, because look, he is like fully come online now. He's only played 1 game so far, so no stats to speak of, but in 72 games at AAA this year, he had an 820 OPS and was just right on 100 WRC plus. So he wanted to play in the majors, and he's honestly expecting to start, but we're not quite there with him yet. Even though he is quite the righty masher, he does bat left, so it's another lefty in our mix. But for the time being, we're going to just let him back up Endy and rotate in every 3rd day, because if we look at our July splits here, which we're already on, Endy is currently our hottest hitter, so we definitely want to keep him in the lineup. So pretty simple swap. Alfonso's going to take every 3rd game, and he's a pretty good defender as well, so I think we're not losing much in terms of defense with moving on from Bernal and going with Alfonso as our everyday backup catcher. But always exciting when a top 50 prospect debuts, and he's currently number 33 in all of baseball. And really, like, the thing that pushed him over, his contact and power both went up to 50 in a recent scouting report. So just really felt comfortable pulling him up at this stage. So that was one swap we made on the offensive end of things. As you can see, like, our hottest hitters in July, like Termar has really turned it on. He's kind of stepped into that 3-hole spot with Cruz going down. And then Nick Gonzalez, Horwitz, and Reynolds are all still hitting as well. Mullins is okay, 81 WRC plus is just fine, but he's mostly out there for his defense anyway. Henry Davis has really cooled off. If we look at his splits here, April, good. May, fantastic. June, July, not so good. So we'll talk about this more in a sec. But we did make one other change I guess with the Cruz injury, we brought up Jorge Barrosa just to sort of be a Band-Aid solution, but he's only got action in 3 games and he's not really done much, but I felt like he was the best available option. Jacob Melton has also cooled off tremendously. He's down to just a 700 OPS on the year, 102 WRC plus, but his numbers in July are pretty brutal, just hitting 133. So hopefully we can turn it around. But on the pitching front, we also made a swap, and it was to bring Brian Abreu back to our closing role. I was looking at shutdown meltdowns here, and he was Brash was starting to show some cracks in his play where I just didn't feel as comfortable, and he kind of had a regression in his most recent scouting report, so I just felt like it made sense to swap. And Abreu kind of recovered nicely, and I just like this ratio a lot more, and he got a boost to his stamina as well. So previously this was 25. Now I think he's going to be more readily available for us. So that was good. But you may notice a new face here in our bullpen, and that is Jojo Romero, who we acquired in a trade from the Washington Nationals. I was perusing the trade block, and I happened to notice Jojo floating out there, and we've really been in need of a lefty specialist that's actually capable at the major league level. We keep trying to fit guys into the role who are probably not quite ready, but Jojo is a proven major leaguer. He's just on a 1-year deal for 1.4 this year, so at 30 we could consider bringing him back next year, or we could just let him go. It could just be a rental, but he's not popular or anything. And his numbers in Washington were really good. Sub-3 ERA, good FIP, not walking a ton of guys, good strikeout minus walk rate. So I felt like he was the best available option for us. And the player we ended up giving up in the deal was really not someone that I care about too much. It was this guy, Dominic Parachi, who at the time of trading him, he was the number 121 prospect in baseball. So he was a top 200 guy, knocking on the door of being top 100. I'm not sure where his value is coming from, other than just he's like a serviceable lefty pitcher. But I didn't really, bank on him ever contributing for us. So I'm happy to give him up and his full, 6 years of team control to the Nats, who were, definitely in selling mode. They're last place, I believe, in the NL, so they had no reason to keep JoJo on board, and we gave them a pitcher they can bring up and down for the next 6 seasons. So I don't mind the deal. I think it can work for both sides there, and I think it makes us a lot stronger in the bullpen this year. So now we feel pretty good about everyone in their roles, and we haven't really checked in on De La Paz much lately, but he's been our best reliever, guys. Just out of nowhere, the 25-year-old who throws low 90s has just shoved, He's been outstanding, so I'm really happy with his performance. I hope the closer change makes us a little less susceptible to blowing leads, and then we'll probably look to reshuffle our starters as well, just in the All-Star break to kind of make sure we're starting the right guys where we need to, but I'll do that on my own time. What's next? I have something a little bizarre. When we were calling up Alfonso to be our new catcher, I had to fill a hole at AAA with another catcher, and I went to the free agent pool, and while I was there, I saw a couple of draftees that I had just looked at in the draft that had been released. So this guy, Matt Hucks, he was drafted in the 6th round by the Mets and then released immediately after. So I don't really know why they did that. But we sniped him out of the pool, and now we have another 18-year-old 50-grade potential guy in our system. So I guess happy to find that. I don't think it's really, it kind of breaks my immersion a little bit seeing teams do that. But there was also this other guy as well, Walt Lorimer, who, we view super highly. We're yet to sign him. He's kind of extorting us for money, but just as a utility infield guy, I think He could make sense for us as well. He was an 8th round pick of the Marlins, and they also just released him straight up. So I don't know what's up with either of those, but we're trying to capitalize on the opportunity by bringing them in. And if you're curious about how the budget worked out for the draft, it was very weird. If you can see this expense module and the year-to-date expenses, we came in just under $5 million, so something was definitely bugged. I went in here and adjusted that budget to match our spend, and so now we have $13 million in fun money to play around with here in the final days of the trade deadline. So more to come on that. I have something in mind, but I don't love this either, just because it again breaks my immersion. It should not function this way. I don't know why the sim was misreading the player demands and all of that. But in any case, we did end up bringing on Dan Beebe, and we pushed him to A-ball straight away. He could definitely play at a higher level, because I'm going to show you his ratings here, and you're going to think, oh my god. And yeah, definitely. He's the most dominant pitcher at A-ball for sure. But he still needs to work on his secondary pitches to bring them up to the same level as his fastball. And while he definitely could play at high A level, the changeup is a little more vulnerable, as is the splitter, so I'm a little hesitant to do that because additionally, and this is the primary factor, I was looking at his relationships to the coaches that we have at each level, and his relationships were a lot better here at just the plain A-ball level. So I figure this is the best place to kind of maximize him. Our pitching coach here specializes in power pitchers, which BB is, and he's got a good relationship with our manager, Edgar Gonzalez. So I think this is the best place to leave him for now. And we'll just kind of let him dominate. So far, he's made one start. He went 8 innings and struck out 12, only walking 2 and allowing 4 hits. So he's been dominant. With a 125 pitch count, I may go into the strategy and set a pitch count for him to prevent being stretched too long. I don't necessarily love that. I'll probably do something more like 110 maybe. But I have super high hopes for him, and he's already wanting to play in the majors. How funny is that? His expectation is to play in the majors immediately off of being drafted. But our most recent scouting report too, his control is better off than we even, thought already. So I can't wait to get him up next season. But that's it as far as transactions we've already made. I have a couple more things in mind. But before we do that, let's go over the All-Star news and the prospect game stuff. So as far as All-Stars go, I'll scroll through so you can read the American League. But as far as our Pirates in the NL, we really don't have many players to speak of. It's just Paul Skeens again, which is unfortunate. I think Cruz would have made it, right? But he was hurt during the time, and I think that just ruled him ineligible. He didn't win the fan vote, but I think he would have been a bench selection. But only Paul Skeens made it for us, which makes sense. He's our most popular player, and he's pitching pretty well. 2.1 WAR on the season. As far as the futures game is concerned, also not huge representation for us. You can see the AL there, but in terms of the NL, funnily enough, the Japanese pitcher Shosei Fujimoto, Molly, we've just been stashing him at AAA all season, and he's been pretty dominant there. I've just been hesitant to call him up because I don't want to purchase the $1.5 million contract, but he's been crushing it down there. He got selected, and then Connor Griffin as well, who in 11 games so far at the AA level, he's been raking. 360 average, 900 OPS, 10 RBI already. So he was definitely ready to attack the Eastern League. I'm glad we made him, or ended up pushing him there. I expect him to finish strong the rest of the way. But the prospect game MVP ended up being Arjun Namala from Toronto, and Pete Alonso ended up beating out his teammate Aaron Judge for the home run derby. And then as far as like the actual game itself, the AL kind of destroyed 10-3, and Alejandro Zuna for the Rangers ended up taking home MVP at just 24 years old. So he's turned into quite the player for them. But the big news I wanted to sort of propose to y'all, and it's not even a proposal because I think I'm going to execute on the trade. But if we consider our like position in the standings, our owner Robert here, he has set the team focus to win now, and we've got some money to play with. So I think we can attack the trade block and try to fill some of our deficiencies. And as we're like currently holding on to a wild card standing, I think it makes sense in terms of like our narrative and our window with Paul Skeens. This is likely our last year with him, so let's try to make it to the playoffs, and who knows what can happen once we get in there. So I'm looking at all the bottom feeders across the league, and you got some good teams here. You got Chicago, Philly, Washington, but Houston is like really bad for some reason, and so is LA and Detroit. And I am like cross-referencing this with the trade block, and I have landed on a target that I think you guys will be excited about. We're not really looking to add much more pitching, but there are some big names here as well, like the Mountain and Duran. But I'm content with who we have on the pitching side. I don't think we need to add more. I'm looking to add a bat because I think offense is our problem. And at the top here, we've got a couple of guys. We got Randy Saya, and then the Houston guys, Jeremy Pena and Isaac Paredes. So the player I have identified is Isaac Paredes. Righty, pull hitter, big power, good eye. His numbers are tremendous so far this year. He's a 135 WRC plus. He's not a good defender, but I think he fits in at DH for us. And you may be thinking, oh, you have Henry Davis. Like, why would you do that? Aren't you committed to your former number 1 overall pick? And I've really kind of soured on him is the answer. Paredes is in an expiring contract, so this is a straight up rental. You guys, I don't think there's any, promise that we would bring him back long term. And I'm okay with it. I'm okay with buying a rental of Isaac Paredes. He's definitely going to be really expensive to bring back. And, after we move on from Skeens, I guess it's like who knows what's possible. But I'm not willing to commit to re-signing him right now. I'm viewing this purely as a rental, and I don't think the price is too outrageous if we go to trade for him. So when we're thinking about moving off him, like we have Alfonso up now, and so now it's like, where does Henry Davis slot in? So we'll just throw Henry Davis here as well. Like they could, use a couple of years of Henry Davis. He still has 2 more years of team control. So it's feasible they could get something out of him, right? He's not a total lost cause, but like I said, his stat line has really cooled, and now he's just a league average hitter. So I'm like, I don't even want to play him at DH for us, regularly. And I think Paredes is just so much more of an upgrade. He doesn't really have much of an injury history to speak of, knock on wood. So I'm content to make this swap, but this is not going to get the deal done alone. What else do we need to include? There are a few players who they're interested in, and the majority of them I'm not interested in moving off of, but there is one guy here, our 18-year-old Dominican shortstop, Johan De Los Santos, who I'm not quite sure where he came from. I think he was potentially just someone I signed out of free agency. And he obviously looks like a great prospect, right? Like, about to turn 19, good infield range up the middle, and he's a line drive hitter, a lefty bat. It's definitely, a potential that like he turns into a star for them, like down the line. We've never valued him higher than like a 55 grade player, but it's certainly possible that he like continues playing well and like the success continues to snowball and he turns into a star for them down the line. But I just don't, like I'm fine releasing that. I'm fine to give that up if it means we get to bring on Isaac Paredes and potentially make the playoffs right now. I don't think like we have other infielders that I'm content to build around in the future. I don't think that losing him is going to be too painful for us. So this is kind of the deal I'm looking at. I think it makes sense for them. We looked at their record; they're awful, and we're giving them two pieces here. Davis is like a 2-year thing for them, 2.5 year, and then De Los Santos can build around him, much longer term. But we can get them to retain a little bit of this salary if we want. I think we can go up as high as 65. Was that? Yeah, 65%. So it's not really going to impact our available money all that much, but I would like to roll some over into the next year ideally. And I think this makes sense for us. Like, it's going to make us a better team right now. So normally I would like to, wait for y'all's blessing before executing big trades, but I think I'm just going to make this. We'll have to keep tabs on De Los Santos as the years progress, but I'm happy to make this move now, and I think it's going to be all around a good deal for us. So Henry Davis gets shipped off to Houston. I would not have predicted that a while ago, or at the beginning of this year rather, and we'll bring up Isaac Paredes to our lineup and have him slot in at DH. So this is going to be really exciting. I'm super pumped to see what we can do down the stretch when we get all of our guys back. When we get Cruz back, we'll go Cruz, Paredes, Termar, and then probably Reynolds, Mullins, and then we'll be hopefully cooking down the back half. But I think this is run pretty long, you guys. I think I'm gonna leave it here. And then next time when we pick up, I'll have simmed the rest of this month off camera, and we can kind of start fresh, go through August, September, and finish out the year together, and hopefully push toward the playoffs. But a little bit of homework maybe. I mentioned in the previous video, I believe, to think about where we want to trade Paul Skeens. If y'all could give me some feedback, I would really appreciate that, just because there's not really many more episodes to go until we need to execute on that trade. Because you think about next, we're going to handle the rest of this season, and then maybe a playoff episode if we have that, and then we're suddenly at the arbitration negotiation period, and we're going to need to trade him then. So it's really just 2, maybe 3 more episodes of Paul Skeens. So I would really like your feedback on where he might demand to be traded to, so we can make that happen. But this has gone on long. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. A like on the video would be amazing if you can spare the time. But I'll look to come back to your YouTube feed soon with the remainder of the off season. I think it'll be an exciting push down the stretch. I'm really excited to see where this team goes. But I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.